Do you want to know how I grew my legs into this? Stick around for the rest of the video and I'll show you exactly what I did. Before we get into what I did to grow my legs, first I'm going to show you a bunch of things I did wrong and people are still doing wrong to this day that's not going to grow your legs. The first culprit being bad form, and there's a lot of things you can do wrong with bad form, but the two main culprits are the two things I'm going to show you. The first one being you're not having any time and attention on your exercises, so that meaning people are doing what I call machine gun reps. They're just here, here, here. So my quads are working here, but they're not really working when I let that weight down. So there's not a lot of time and attention. So that's one of the main factors to grow your legs is time and attention. So that's the first thing with bad form I see people do. And the next one I'm going to show you on the hack squat. The next thing most people are doing wrong with bad form is not big range of motion. And this is probably the worse than that last one I'll show you. The biggest big range of motion, or not getting a full range of motion, is probably holding most people back on their leg gains and gains in general. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to demo on this hack squat, but just know this applies to leg press, regular squats, lunges. So most people put a lot of weight on and they're only going halfway down right there. They're not really recruiting all their muscle fibers. They're not recruiting their quads as much as they could. They're not recruiting their glutes as much as they could. So you want to come all the way down, big range of motion. And again, this applies for leg press. If you like doing barbell squats, Smith machine squats, lunges, everything, we want to get a full range of motion and recruit as many muscle fibers as we can and stop doing just half reps with too much weight. Cut the weight in half and do a full range of motion. The next thing I did, not necessarily wrong, but was holding my leg development back for years, and it's probably still holding a lot of other people back, is I was leaning too heavily on barbell squats to grow my quads. I mean, they will grow your overall legs, but they don't really target your quads. But they didn't target mine as much as the hack squat, which I just showed you. So the problem with barbell squat is, for me and a lot of other people, we're not structurally built for it, is once I get here and the weight starts getting heavy, my lower back and my glutes, just because of the way I'm sitting, my glutes, my lower back are taking a lot of that load. My quads aren't getting a big load. So what I would say is, if that's you and all you feel squats in is your glutes and your lower back and you're just getting hurt all the time, sub this out for either a hack squat, a Smith machine squat where you're upright, or any other squat where your back is supported or upright, and that'll hit your quads a little harder. So that's step number two. The second thing I did wrong for growing my quads and my legs in general was just relying too much on the barbell squat. Third thing I did wrong to not grow my legs optimally for years was I didn't prioritize my adductors or my inner thighs and my hamstrings, meaning I either didn't train them at all, or I waited to do them at the end of my leg workout when I was just spent. I'd already done leg presses, squats, lunges. I've already done pretty much the bulk of my workouts. So by the time I got to my hamstrings and adductors, they were an afterthought. So I couldn't put a lot of work into them. But adductors and hamstrings make up, a good portion of your legs. It's not, your legs aren't just your quads and your glutes. It's your hamstrings, your inner thighs, and all that too. So if you don't work those as hard as you're doing your quads and your hamstrings or your glutes, your leg development's just not going to be as big as it can be overall. The fourth thing I was doing wrong for so long was, like a lot of people, not taking as many or any sets to failure. So a lot of people are guilty, and I was guilty of this for a while, just having my standard leg workout, which might have been, I'm going to do 4 sets of 10 on leg extension, 4 sets of 12 on leg press, barbell squats, lunges. So I had a standard workout, but I wasn't really trying to take anything to failure or put, progressively overload anything. Again, legs for me was almost just an afterthought. I was training them, but I wasn't training them to grow, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to give you an example of what I mean by taking a set to failure. So there's no weight on this leg press, but I can show you just with no weight what most people are doing with their sets. So most people, and again, I was guilty of it for a while too, will get on, a hack squat or leg press or leg extension. They'll do a couple warm-ups and they'll get to their working sets and they'll say, all right, I'm gonna do a set of 10, that's my working set. So they're gonna get here, there's 7, 8, 9, 10, and they've done their 10 reps because, again, that's all their workout, quote unquote, called for. When in reality, if you're trying to grow those legs, or any body part in general, you gotta take at least 1 to 2 sets per exercise to failure. So let's say I had 7, 8 plates, whatever it may be on here, and I'm going for 10. Your reps should look like this by the time you get to 7, 8, 9, and 10. So I should be 7, grinding it out, 8, barely get it up. You should be a grind on those last few reps, whatever your rep may be, whether you're going for 8, 12, 15, I don't care what it is. Those last 3 or 4 should be pushing you to almost absolute failure, or at least 1 rep, 2 reps in reserve. It shouldn't be like I just did in the beginning, just 8, 9, 10. That's not really pushing your body to make any changes. So that's the fourth thing I was guilty of, was not pushing anything to failure. Lastly, the thing that kind of held me back and that I was guilty of for years was I wasn't making my overall leg training a priority, meaning I was training them my legs on a Friday or Saturday after I would start off the week on Monday doing chest, Tuesday doing back, Wednesday I might have did shoulders, Thursday I did arms, and then like most young guys were doing, they were training legs on Friday or Saturday. Well, the problem there is you've already put in 4 other days of working hard and your central nervous system is probably a little more fried, so you can't really put the full intensity effort into your leg training like you should. That, and I was only training legs once per week. Before we get into what actually worked and got my legs to grow, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. I have tons of videos on my channel on how to grow stubborn body parts. Now that we know all the wrong things I did and a lot of people are still doing wrong for leg training, let's get into what actually grew my legs. And I'm gonna start with going reverse order of what I just ended with, which I prioritize my leg training, meaning I would take Sundays off. Every Sunday is always an off day for me, and I would start fresh on Monday. Instead of training chest like every other dude in the gym training chest on Monday, I start off with legs. And my first leg day of the week is gonna be primarily quad dominant. So I'm gonna do a lot of quad exercises, still some hamstrings and glutes. So I'm gonna crush my quads on Monday, and then if I really wanna prioritize my legs, I'm gonna come back on Thursday or Friday and train my hamstrings and glutes a little harder. Still do a little more quads on that day too, but I'm gonna train hamstrings and glutes. So like we just said, the hamstrings, glutes, and adductors make up a big part of your leg too, so you can't neglect those. So that's the first thing I would say is prioritize your leg training. Give it, if you're not gonna give it 2 days a week, at least give it its own day where it's had a day off before to really rest your body so you can push hard. And also eat a little more carbs on those days to really help you fuel hard workouts and recover. The next thing that really helped my legs grow, especially my quads, was I became less reliant. I took barbell squats out completely of my routine because it got to the point where I was getting strong enough I needed more weight on that barbell squat, but all that was happening, like I talked about earlier, was I was hurting my back, my knees were hurting, my hips. I was getting every other thing you can imagine from squats except for quad growth. My glutes were growing because I'm glute dominant, but my back was always hurting tight, my knees and hips were hurting, so I couldn't really push hard the rest of my leg workout because the barbell squat was doing so much damage and not really growing my quads. So I subbed that out for hack squats probably like 7-8 years ago, and from there I could say my quads really started taking off because my back was supported, so I didn't hurt my back. My glutes were almost taken completely out of the exercise, and my quads could really get a chance to grow. So that's what I would say is, if you're like me and you only feel the barbell squat and your back, your knees, your glutes, everywhere but your quads, I would say sub out the barbell squat for either a Smith machine squat where your back is upright, a hack squat, or even a pendulum squat, some other form of squatting where your back is upright and your glutes are taken out of the action. Next up on how I got my overall leg development to start increasing was I started paying attention and devoting a lot more time to my adductors and hamstrings. So like I spoke about earlier, those are a big part of your legs, it's not just your quads. So on my main leg day on Monday, I always start with my adductors, my inner thighs. I do about 3 or 4 sets there to failure or close to failure, and then I'll do some hamstrings, some leg curls, and then I'll get into my squatting, my leg pressing, my lunge, and all that good stuff before I've really, exhausted myself on all those movements, so I can really dedicate a lot of time and intensity to my hamstrings and adductors. So not only do I prioritize them first in my primary leg day, I come back on Thursday or Friday and I have whole another day where I'm doing glutes and hamstrings and touching those adductors a little bit more, because trust me, the quads are gonna get worked really hard Monday, Thursday, and Friday. So you gotta really pay attention to bringing up those adductors and hamstrings if you want your overall leg development to be better. Next thing you gotta pay attention to, and that I really paid attention to, was, like I spoke about earlier, taking at least 1 or 2 sets per exercise to failure, or as close to failure as possible, and trying to progressively overload that exercise every week. So this is mainly talking about things like your leg press, your hack squats, your compound movements, but you can also do that with your leg extensions, your leg curls, stuff like that. You shouldn't treat those quote unquote isolation exercises as just like a warm-up or whatever it may, most people think of them as. You can still overload those and push them hard. You just gotta pay attention every week on how much weight you're using, how many reps you did, and really try to push 1 or both of those every week, more weight or more reps, but also keeping your form tight. So that's probably one of the most important things, along with correct form, was learning how to ratchet the intensity up on each exercise and either take 1 or 2 sets to failure or close to failure as possible. Lastly, probably the most important thing, this goes for any lifting anywhere, not just your legs, but for your chest, your arms, is I fixed my form. So I wasn't doing any more half reps, I wasn't machine gunning reps, I wasn't doing what they call junk volume, which means just doing 20 to 30 reps for the heck of it. If I was doing those high reps, by the time I got to 20 or 30, my legs were shot. I wasn't still just moving the weight easy. So I'm gonna show you in this leg extension what I call correct form, but again, just know it kind of applies for every exercise. So you wanna have a good contraction, coming down slow and controlled. I might sometimes even pause from the bottom before I kick it up, coming back down. So usually on most exercise for legs, I'm doing 10 to 15, taking them to failure or close to failure. But let's say you wanted to do 20 reps of this. Well, just like I spoke about earlier when I was doing just a lot of junk volume, if I'm doing 20, all 20 are gonna look like this. So, you know, taking a set to failure with whatever reps you use, that's subjective. You can do failure with 8 reps, you can do it with 20. Whatever your body responds better to, I would say do. But the main thing you need to fix before on any body part, but especially legs, is fix your form and stop doing machine gun reps and junk volume. You wanna make sure that quad, glute, whatever you're targeting is taking a full load and no time off for it. So if you're having trouble getting your legs to grow, I want you to try this 3-month challenge, okay? So I want you to start doing your legs twice a week. You're gonna do legs first on Monday, and that's gonna be your quad dominant workout. You're gonna come back on Friday and do a hamstring and glute dominant workout. The next thing I want you to focus on is immaculate form. So if you've been machine gunning reps and doing just a lot of junk volume, fix your form on every exercise, not just your squats, your leg extension. Every exercise, be paying close attention to your form. Number 3, I want you to work on, just like we talked about, prioritizing your hamstrings and adductors. You're gonna be working them twice a week already, but just make sure you're really hitting them hard on that Friday. We're really paying attention to your hamstrings before you do your main Monday workout and your adductors on that day, but also come back on Friday and hit them a little harder too, because again, that's gonna just contribute to an overall bigger leg. If you're still working barbell squats, I would say just try this out for 3 months. Take barbell squats out of the equation. And if you have a hack squat, work that in. If not, do a Smith machine squat where your feet are out in front and your back is going up and down. So that's number 4, is take those barbell squats out for about 3 months and try another compound movement that works, you know, in that squatting pattern. The last thing is make sure each exercise you're taking at least 1 set, maybe 2 to failure or close to failure. So on those adductors, those smaller muscle groups, I don't feel like they need more than 1, you know, set to failure, but like your bigger muscle groups, your quads, your glutes, maybe in your hamstrings, you can take 2 sets to failure, or what they call reps in reserve. So reps in reserve meaning if you get to 10, you might have gotten 11 or 12 if you're lucky. So if you can't take it to failure, or you don't feel comfortable taking it to failure, take it to as close to failure as you can get. Just push yourself past those normal comfort points that your legs are used to. That's it, guys. It's pretty easy if you just pay attention to all those things to grow your legs. A lot of people just real lackadaisical with their legs. They think of it as an afterthought, but legs are half your body. So if half your body is not growing as fast as the other half, your overall muscle development is just not going to be there. So try all those things for 3 months, maybe even less than that, maybe even 6 weeks, and I promise you, you're going to have a bigger overall leg. If you like this video, guys, and you want to see more, subscribe to the channel. As always, stay swole.